Are you looking to learn how Python can help you with your data analytics? Well, you've come to the right place. Today we're gonna be going through a dataset that I downloaded from Kaggle about churn rate. If you guys don't know what churn is the rate at which a customer leaves a business or no longer needs that company's services. You can use any dataset for this tutorial, but this is just the one I'm gonna be working with today. The main program I'm gonna be working within is Jupyter Notebooks within Google Colab. This is by far my favorite beginner platform. Google Colab already has a lot of the Python environments already installed, which makes it very, very user-friendly. So the 3 steps we're gonna be going through today is how to load our data, how to view our data, and how to understand our data. Understanding your data is one of the most important parts when it comes to the data analytics process. This will help determine what type of either predictive or prescriptive modeling you're going to be doing in the next step. Okay, enough talking, let's get to exploring our data. Here we are in my Google Colab studio where I'll be using Jupyter Notebooks. I find Google Colab to be a very easy beginner site since it actually has a lot of the Python environments pre-installed. But if you'd like to see how to set up a Python or Jupyter Notebook environment on your Mac, please comment down below and I'll make sure to get a video out soon for you guys. So here you can see I've uploaded my dataset into Google Colab for my laptop so we can access it with code. As you can see, I have all the code already pre-written and we're just gonna be running each line in interest of time. The first step of any analysis is, of course, to load your libraries. I already have a preset code that I just copy and paste into this document where I import pandas, numpy, matplotlib, and seaborn, but since this is a beginner video, we're not gonna be going through all these libraries. So we're gonna run this line of code right here. So the next step is actually gonna be loading our data set into the Jupyter Notebook. As stated earlier, the dataset that I'm using is on the churn rate of customers. So I'm going to call our dataset churn, as you can see here. But of course, based on your dataset, you can call whatever you want. A lot of people also call it just DF. So in this line, you can see we are actually calling on the pandas data frame, and we're also using the read CSV function. There's also a read Excel, read JSON, and others, but since it's a CSV, we'll be using, of course, the read CSV. This is just the file path of where my dataset is saved. So where this file path actually comes from is right here. Here's my dataset loaded into Google Colab. We're gonna click the 3 dots. We're gonna click copy the file path. It'll be copied and you can just paste it right in here. So next we are going to use the head function. The head function is used to return the top 5 records from your dataset. So here, we're gonna run this. And here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the top 5 records. Alternatively, you can also run the tail function, which, as you probably guessed it, can run the bottom 5. And if you wanted to see your entire data set, you can just run whatever you called it. As I stated earlier, mine's called churn. So now that we understand how to view our data, now we want to see some information regarding our data set. So here with the shape function, we can see how many columns and rows are actually in our data set. So we're going to run this. And you can see there's 10,000 rows and 14 columns. I'm actually also going to input another line of code. I'm going to use the churn.columns function. And this is going to return all of our column names, as you can see here. Okay, now that this is all set, we're going to move on to identifying duplicate records. Duplicate records are very important to identify and remove because they can end up greatly skewing your results because there's going to be a misperceived increase in the values. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I prefer to use the duplicated and the sum function together. I think it's just a lot cleaner, but it's up to you. So this is going to return the sum of all the duplicate rows across all columns. This data set, as stated before, is from Kaggle. Kaggle is known for having very clean data sets, so this is actually to be expected. But in case that there was any duplicates, we're going to use the drop duplicates function to remove these. And then the in place equals true actually makes this permanent within our data set. So we're going to run this. Okay, now let's move on to truly understanding our data set. One of the most important parts of EDA is understanding what kind of data you are actually working with. More specifically, what are the data types? You can have categorical, numerical, Boolean, etc. There's tons of them. You can identify all your data types using the info function. So let's run this. And here, this will return all of your data types. You can see we have a bunch of integers, a couple objects, and even a float here for the balance, which is to be expected using a floating decimal. Okay, moving on, we're gonna get to the describe function. So the describe function is actually gonna return the descriptive statistics. And if you're not familiar with what descriptive statistics are, it is your mean, standard deviation. It'll return your first quartile, your third quartile, your max. And a little information if you're not too familiar with this, this will only return your numerical columns. So if you wanted to return your non-numerical columns, you can use the include object function as seen here. This will return the count, the amount of unique values, and the most frequent. Okay, since this video is for beginners, we're going to wrap up with identifying null values. A null value is where there's no data present in your data field. So when we run this, you're going to see that it returns Boolean values. As you can see here, this is identifying if each one of these values has data actually in it. So since all of these are false, you can say that all of these have data present. If they were true, you would say that that is a null value. So just by looking at this overview, we can estimate that there are no null values in this, but just to be sure, once again, similar to the duplicates, we're going to use the sum function. We're gonna run it, and this will return the total null values per column, which is honestly a super helpful tool. So this is actually where we're going to conclude this walkthrough. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed this tutorial style video, make sure you comment down below some ideas that you guys would like to see next. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later with another video.